Hello, this is John Estel speaking. Thank you for tuning in to the Department of Technology, Management, and Budget portion of the ADA 30th Anniversary Series. I work in the eMichigan group inside of DTMB. eMichigan is responsible for maintaining the Michigan.gov website, the content management system itself. Other agencies are responsible for the actual words that go on the website. We are also responsible for applications, building apps, mobile apps. We're also responsible for the state's internal SharePoint site, maintaining the servers that put the website out there. We're responsible for mapping applications and doing accessibility reviews. So all of the websites and applications that the state produces come through our office for an accessibility review. Myself, I am responsible for training state employees on web content, Google Analytics, and training state employees on creating web content in an accessible way, creating all electronic information in an accessible way. First, let's talk briefly about the laws that govern what we do. The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 is a wide-ranging legislation intended to make society more accessible to people with disabilities, and it prohibits discrimination based on disability. The second law that we work with in DTMB is the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. Within that act, there's two sections that we refer to. Section 504, which requires agencies to provide individuals with disabilities an equal opportunity to participate in their programs and benefit from their services, including the provision of information to employees and members of the public. Section 508, which a lot of people refer to, requires that all electronic information provide equal or equivalent access to everyone. But from a state perspective, Section 508 only applies in certain situations. So when we talk about the Rehabilitation Act, from a state and local government perspective, we should be referring to Section 504. There is also an internal SOM policy, a state of Michigan, that is, 1650, that mentions how the state handles electronic and other information. And as a quote from that policy, we are to ensure that printed materials and documents, meetings and events, videos and other media production, social media, websites, applications, and electronic documents are accessible to persons with disabilities as required by law. Within that policy 1650, Section 2 directly addresses electronic information. And last, eMichigan also maintains the State of Michigan digital standards. The digital standards is a document that lays out design and development requirements for websites and other electronic information. Within the digital standards, we refer to WCAG 2.0, WCAG W 2.0. So I want to talk about that a little bit too. When DTMB creates websites or applications, or when eMichigan reviews websites or applications, we use a world standard for electronic accessibility. The World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, has a set of guidelines called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, or sometimes pronounced WCAG. There are three levels of accessibility ratings in WCAG: Level A, AA, and AAA. The state of Michigan, along with most governments and private entities, use the second level as our basis for compliance. In other words, we work very hard to make sure the state is WCAG AA compliant. So the digital guidelines is a skeleton of a website that allows developers within the state to create new applications quickly and easily while meeting WCAG AA guidelines from the beginning. So how do we review these websites? As early in the development cycle as we can, we want our review team to start looking at the app or website that the State of Michigan team is creating. So as early as we can, we want to try to get into the website, start looking at it and reviewing it for different WCAG standards. Because if we can fix it early, then it costs a lot less to develop that app. So part of these rules that we have, WCAG 2.0, the michigan.gov/standards, that's a website, michigan.gov/standards, or internal employees can go to digital.michigan.gov website on the internal SharePoint site. So also, one thing that I need to talk about is the ADA work group. All of these standards that we're using is not just a DTMB thing. DTMB facilitates a work group with experts and stakeholders from various agencies, the Attorney General's Office, the Civil Rights Department, Technology Management Budget, Labor Economic Opportunity, Health and Human Services, Natural Resources. All of these agencies have representatives on this work group to help us determine a lot of what we do on the websites for the state of Michigan. So as we go through and work on some of these things, how do we look at different things? So some of the simple tests that we look at in WCAG, there's a checkpoint for color contrast. What is color contrast? It is the difference between what color your font is and the color of the background. So I have an example of music logo here for Amazon Prime Music, and they have an advertisement for the 50 most played songs by genre. So I did a screen capture, grabbed this advertisement, and the reason I have it here is because it has a light blue background and a white text overlay. So the text on top of this blue background, many people can read it, but there are still many more people that can't read it because the text is so light on the light background. So this is one of the contrast checkpoints that we look at when we design websites. So in general, this type of thing is very difficult to make accessible. One of the other things that we check and design into our websites is a thing called skip navigation. We utilize skip navigation when it comes to people that can only use a keyboard. What happens, and I'd like you to think about this, is what happens if you can't use your mouse on a website? How do you navigate that website? Well, one of the things that happens is you go into the website and then the website has a lot of navigation. And I have a screen capture right now showing the Michigan.gov website. The Michigan.gov website does have a lot of navigation in it. So in order to get to the main section on the website, how do you skip past all of that navigation using your keyboard so that you can read the information that's in the middle? And part of that is using a skip navigation. So how do you do that? And I am going to attempt to change over to a web browser now. All right. So on my screen, I have a web browser, and I'm going to click inside the URL bar. And I'm going to use my keyboard. I'm just going to hit the tab key. And as you follow along, you'll see it's going to the right in the navigation. It's going into the search box. Now it's going past all the search items that I have. And now I've hit the tab key about 6 times and it's gone to skip to main content. If I hit enter now, it drops me down into the hot jobs for 2026 box. Why is that important? Well, if I back up and I don't hit the skip nav link, then I get stuck in all the different navigations that are available up at the top. My cursor is currently under business. I go to education, I go to health, I go to government, and I can go inside of government or navigate to it. So being able to use your keyboard and using the skip navigation to get past all of that extra navigation to get to the main piece of information, that's a convenience thing. It makes the website easier to use for people that cannot use their mouse. And here's some examples of contrast. In the related resources section, there's an image displaying that has a black box at the bottom of it where there are words that say Michigan Data Store, access to data and information. You'll notice there is a slight gradient over the image, and you have to put that there so that the white words show up on the image and you can read them, because the image in of itself has or is a white background. So if you did not have this dark gradient on the image, then the words would not be legible. All right, let me switch back to my slide presentation. So that's a quick use or an example of how we try to do an ease of use test for our websites. Skip navigation. The other tests that we perform is keyboard only. Can you navigate the website with just your keyboard? So the next thing that we use is a screen reader. How does somebody access the content on our website if they can't see the website? You know, they have a visual disability. eMichigan tests using JAWS, that is Job Access with Speech, and we also use NVDA, non-visual desktop application. So I'm now going to switch to the web browser again and turn on NVDA. And my hope now is that it's
Welcome to NVDA. Welcome to NVDA. Welcome to NVDA. Most okay. Okay. Show skip nav. Some relate page. Navigation toolbar. Combo box collapsed. Search with Google or enter address edit collapsed.
So right now we're listening to NVDA do its thing, and it is verbalizing the website. Hopefully the audio is coming through so that you can hear it. So now I'm going to tab through. I'm on the skip navigation main content link. I let the computer finish talking before I started talking. And from here, I'm going to press the enter key. And the computer is talking now. It's telling us what level we're on and where in the website we are. So at this point, I'm turning off the screen capture, or excuse me, the computer, so that it doesn't interfere with me talking right now. But the point is that I hope you could hear some of the screen reader doing its thing. If not, I will try and edit in the video at this point in time. All right, back to my screen, my slide deck, and that was the screen reader. I hope you understood that. So the next thing that we look at when we're testing websites, pop-up windows are dangerous. In a pop-up window, can the keyboard get to it? So when a pop-up window pops up, can you tab to it to get to it? Or when it pops up, does it immediately take control so that you can tab and hit the enter on the OK button in this case? Will the screen reader read it? When this window pops up, is it brought to the attention of the screen reader so the screen reader verbalizes it? And then the other thing, which isn't a hard check, but is more of a soft check, does the message make sense? The screenshot that I have displayed right now is a pop-up window that says error with a red X or white X and a red circle, and the operation completed successfully is the message. So the window says error, but the message says the operation completed successfully. And then there's an OK button. This pop-up box really doesn't make a lot of sense, because what was completed successfully that caused an error to happen? So, you know, these kind of things, we check for this. We want to make sure that this doesn't happen. Also, part of my responsibilities, not just working with creating websites and or creating applications, is part of my responsibilities is teaching state employees how to utilize Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word has a built-in accessibility checker. One of the things that I want to point out is this is relatively new. In the past 3 years or so, Microsoft Word will run an accessibility check on the Word document that you create. And right now I'm going to switch to a Word document, and hopefully it's sharing on my screen. In this Word document, a couple of the quick things that I like to point out when I teach Word is the ribbon and using your home styles as part of the ribbon here. Inside the ribbon for styles is normal and heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. And one of the common things that I see when teaching people how to use Microsoft Word is that they use the headings purely as a way to format font to make it bigger, bold, change the font. And that has direct ramifications on the logic of the Word document if it were to get posted on the website. The reason is because the screen readers use heading 1 and 2 and 3 as navigation points. You can tab between the different headings. So if you don't use the headings appropriately in your Word document, then it makes it very difficult for somebody that is using a screen reader to read the Word document. So make sure that you utilize the accessibility checker within Microsoft Word. Another thing that I like to pick on in Word is over in the home ribbon in the font section, where it allows you to increase and decrease the size of the font, allows you to change the color of the font, it allows you to highlight fonts. I highly recommend that you do not use this section. If you want to make a font a different color, if you want to highlight fonts, so you want to change the fonts, make sure that you go over to the styles section in your home ribbon and edit the normal or the body text or your headings to make those changes, because that is the I'll use an IT word, that is the logical way of doing it, because it affects the way a Word document gets translated onto a website. Go ahead and use bold and italics as appropriate, but the rest of the font selector items over here, don't use them. All right, back to my PowerPoint slides. A PowerPoint slide about PowerPoint. So my first bullet is take a class. PowerPoint is very difficult to get right. One of the key things that I like to pick on here is how many words per slide. If you have more than 20 or 30 words on a slide, that slide is too busy and it needs to be broken up into other slides. Part of this is reading comprehension, which is another test that we do throughout all of the reviews that we do. How many words? 20, 30? That's enough. You have to make it succinct, and then you can talk about everything that is happening on this slide, because what happens is people will try to read every single word that are on your slide instead of listening to you, the presenter. So minimize the amount of information that is on the slide. One image on the slide, one animation on the slide. Animations can be difficult themselves. Is it a busy animation? Is it doing lots of things? You have to pay attention to that because that can affect people that have vestibular issues. So I would minimize the animations on your screen. The other thing is, within PowerPoint, did you provide access to all the things? Do the images have closed or alt text? Do the videos have closed captioning? Do the animations have an explanation as to why it's being animated? So PowerPoint in of itself is a great tool to communicate. However, it takes a lot of practice to get it right. The next thing that DTMB looks at and eMichigan reviews, interactive maps. So interactive maps are a great tool to try and provide a lot of information. And it's a very relevant current event that's happening right now. The screenshot that I have is a Michigan map with all of the counties highlighted. And the counties have color gradients on them for the number of COVID cases that are happening right now. So COVID-19, coronavirus. And this interactive map allows you to select a county, click it, and then it brings up more information on that county. So this type of thing can be difficult for people that can't access their mouse to directly click on things. This map is not easy to tab between all the different counties. So what do we do from an IT perspective to make sure that an interactive map provides information to as many people as we can? So I am going to switch back to my web browser, and on this tab, I have an example of a Microsoft Power BI interactive map that was part of my screenshot. But below that, on the right-hand side of the screen, is a list of Excel files. This may not make a lot of sense to everybody, but just providing the raw data so that everybody has the ability to download these spreadsheets and get to the data so that they don't have to use the Power BI interface. In this case, we're using Power BI. There's lots of other examples that the state of Michigan uses. But the point is that maps, interactive maps especially, are not usable by everybody. So in order to provide the most information that you can to the most people, also provide the raw data. In this case, it's an Excel format. So that's interactive maps. The next thing, social media. This topic is a very interesting topic. Lots of people use social media in lots of different ways. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all kinds of websites. So the 2 bullet points that I have here, very simple, no screenshots, no examples, is basically everything that I said above applies to social media. If you're creating a graphic that is going into your social feed and that graphic has color contrast issues, that's a problem. If that graphic has too much text in it, does it have more than 20 words? Maybe you shouldn't be putting that out there. Other examples of motion, videos. You post a video to your social media feed. Does that video have closed captioning? Does the image have alt text? And my second bullet point is seriously, everything that I talked about above applies to social media. So to wrap up, or start the wrap up anyway, I have a slide with contact information up here. Some employees, state of Michigan employees with questions should reach out to your department agency ADA coordinator. You may also reach out to your website administrator. So if you happen to know who your webmaster or web administrator is for your agency, you can reach out to them too about your accessibility questions. And of course, you can reach out to me, John Estel, estelj@michigan.gov. And there's also some things I want to, oh, I am missing a slide. Okay. So this is a reminder for everybody. If you work for state or local government, you are responsible for Title II compliance. Even if you contract with a third party to do work for you, if you contract with a third party to build a website for you or create documents, you ultimately are responsible for Title II compliance, and you cannot hand those responsibilities off to the contractor. So there's that statement there. For everybody, if you do have accessibility concerns related to information provided by the state, this is how you can reach out to us. You go to the website, michigan.gov/ADA. That website, on that page, you will find a notice for the ADA and a link to a list of ADA coordinators. There's also a link to an electronic complaint form that you can fill out. and that form gets sent to the Department of Civil Rights. If you need information provided in different formats, go to that website and look up the agency coordinator list, the ADA coordinator, and that ADA coordinator will be able to work with the agency to provide you with the information in the format that you require. I also encourage you to look at the list of ADA coordinators to get familiar with them so that you know who to talk to. I want to end on some information about the future. So in DTMB, we also look towards the future and not just what we do on an everyday practice. The first thing to talk about is WCAG has recently gone from version 2.0 to 2.1. While the state has not formally adopted the new requirements, we are looking at how to incorporate the new guidelines in the work that we do every day. WCAG 2.1 has 3 main topic areas. Area 1 are the guidelines for mobile accessibility. 2.0 does not have anything in there in regards to mobile necessarily. 2.1 does. So how many applications do you use on a daily basis that don't have landscape mode? Can you turn your phone sideways and still use the app? Well, 2.1 talks about that. Area 2 are guidelines to help people with low vision. How small is the text on your screen? If you're in a Word doc or you're in an email or a PDF or on your phone screen, are the colors too light? Are they too similar to each other? Is color contrast an issue? Is the font too small? That is something for Area 2 within WCAG. And then Area 3, our guidelines to help people with cognitive and learning disabilities. How do people that have ADHD, autism, dementia, dyslexia interact with electronic information that you're providing to them? So the new version of WCAG 2.1 addresses all 3 of those areas. And we are looking at how we're going to start incorporating that into the electronic information that we provide. At the federal level, there is new legislation that's been introduced. House Resolution 8478. The Online Accessibility Act. This interesting new legislation because it applies to private entities, not local units of government. It will affect businesses. Businesses with websites would be required to ensure that their site adheres to WCAG guidelines. So there have been cases in the past where private entities were sued to make their websites accessible. So now we're starting to see federal legislation that starts to apply to that. And to wrap up, I hope that you've learned a few things from this presentation and that you will incorporate into your daily work life and into your out of work life too. If you're a State of Michigan employee and you have questions about electronic accessibility, please ask your agency's ADA coordinator or ask your agency's Michigan.gov web administrator or look me up. Thank you.